All right, guys, welcome to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. I've got a great game from Daniel Naroditsky and Hikaru Nakamura, two of the great chess players, both powerful grandmasters. Naroditsky is going to be playing white. I think he's like rated 9 in America right now. And Hikaru, of course, Nakamura, he's one of the best bullet champions. I think Carlsen just surpassed him with the ELO, setting a world record just recently. But Nakamura's been right up there for, man, he's been in there for years and years and years. This was a bullet game. 1 minute. I mean, these guys are chess gods, how they play so fast and so well in 1 minute. But the reason there's a couple of ideas here that I think, as we lesser chess mortals watch the gods do battle, we can learn some very valuable lessons. And so I wanted to show you this game. This was played in 2020, and I know they've played a lot more since then, and I will update us and upgrade us with more Carlsen games and Nakamura and Naroditsky. If you get a chance, they both have YouTube channels. Naroditsky is got a great YouTube channel. Well, so does Hikaru. They're both really good. Well worth watching. Knight c3 and c6. Now, here, I've got to take my glasses off so I can see. These glasses are for distance while I'm driving, but what Hikaru here is doing is stopping Naroditsky. When you can get two central pawns together like that, do it. That's awesome. And he is setting up he set up a fianchetto kind of like a King's Indian. Not really a King's Indian or dragon, but kind of. But he is just stopping the forward progress of the pawns, is this idea of c6. Bringing the bishop in, and now d5. And now he's going to attack the center. Here's one of the first things I want to show you. They leave the tension here. Just because you have something that needs to be taken. To take is a mistake. Now, that's Grandmaster Igor Smirnov's teaching, and he has shown time and again where that is correct. So you notice they leave the tension here, and in fact, he adds the support but maintains the tension with his pawn move. And it does seem like they're doing a lot of pawn moves in the opening, because they are doing a lot of pawn moves in the opening at this point. Normally not how Grandmaster chess is played, but this is bullet chess, 1 minute. We get to analyze it for a half an hour. Lucky us. Keep on playing, man. Now, he brought the knight. When your center is so well developed with pawns, then it's okay to go ahead and make that push as well. e5, he's going to gain more space, advance in the center, and Nakamura is going to bring the knight back. Now, what he's going to do is he's going to transfer that knight. Now, the center, for all intents and purposes, is relatively closed, so it is not as critical to get as many pieces developed as fast as you can, rather than situate them into a game you can play that has cooperation and coordination. So the center king side seems to be more spacious for Naroditsky. Hikaru is going to play on the queen side. And so this is where he's going to try to develop his space. And he does so. b5. Here comes Hikaru on the queen side. And whoops, sorry. Knight f6, knight fd7, and then he went f4. I apologize. Yeah, he meant to. I missed that move. Sorry. There's the seventh move, and then Nakamura pushed the b5. And now we've got knight f3. So centers are very solid with both players. More expansion, more space for Naroditsky. with the knight push. And again, we can see this transfer. Now, that does seem like a lot of knight moves. And so and this is a temporary imbalance, this development idea, you know. So they're just trying to remain solid as they can. Knight b6, and now he brings up, again, speedy deployment of the pieces, which is always good. And Nakamura is just coming down the queen side as fast as he can possibly come out. Knight is going to relocate, and this makes sense. The pawns are coming crashing in. Now, Naroditsky, Daniel hasn't had a chance to even push pawns yet, and his bishop is here, which can be eventually hit if this pawn doesn't stop this pawn. So we've got a hole here. Boy, wouldn't Naroditsky love to put a knight right there, right? Backward pawn in the hole. There's one of the weaknesses. On the other hand, there's a fantastic hole right here at e4 that Nakamura would love to bust a knight into there, right? So they're just rearranging their forces. And this brings us to a very interesting observation here in just a few minutes that I'm going to show you. They castle, Naroditsky castles, and bishop a6, great development, grabbing the diagonal. Now, once again, and I'm going to emphasize this because it's something I've learned that recently, meaning in the last 5 years or so. Again, the tension, but again, no one takes. And we see tension. We see tension between the two pieces. The pawns are going to pick up tension here pretty quick too. And now Naroditsky continues his rearrangement, and now the e6 to solidify his own center. So now this is an important observation that we always want to keep in our mind. I know there's a lot in chess, but Nakamura bringing his bishop here to get aim on this rook, bishop, this file, f1 to a6. This is his bad bishop, meaning it's the same color as his central pawns. So he has got it out from behind them, though. It's technically classified a bad bishop, but it's a very useful animal right now, for real. So on the opposite side then, if the white pawns make the white squared bishop for Nakamura the bad bishop, then the dark square pawns make the dark square bad bishop for Naroditsky. You can see that that bishop has no influence other than being a tall pawn at this point. Just be aware of that because that's going to play a very important role in this. And now Naroditsky goes b3 to try to stop the storm coming on. He's going to at least meet it. And now we've got Nakamura coming, going to give his other knight support. And now here comes Naroditsky. And it's at this point I thought I was at. So there is tension here, but it's not relieved. No one takes yet. There is tension here, but no one takes yet. Just because there is the potential for an exchange, Smirnov says to take is a mistake, and that is a very important clue on how to play a higher level chess. So let's see how they do this. Nakamura's bringing his queen. He's developed an, I agree, it's only one square, but notice the amazing thing at this point. We are up to move 15, and there have been no exchanges whatsoever yet. This board is still completely packed. Now, this makes for some fantastically interesting tactical chess. Naroditsky is the first one to take. He'll take the b4. And Nakamura will take the b4. What this does is it produces the a file. And the bishop is pinned technically, but it's not like the rook is in trouble because the rook is covered by the queen and the knight. And it's not like Narod's rook is in trouble because he's supported by the queen and then the other rook also. But just so you know, the A file is open, and that does play a role in this game. The rooks have to have that file open, just exactly like the bishops need the diagonals. Yeah? So we're beginning to see some long-term strategies show up. Queen E2. What he does here is he brings his queen up so that he can connect his rooks, right? It is at this point because Naroditsky also made a battery with the queen and bishop, always a very, very powerful combination to do. This is when Nakamura decided, okay, now I will change my bad bishop for Daniel's good bishop. So he does. So this is a change favoring black. And now he castles. So we've got both players castled. This is good. And now knight will come back to E2. Naroditsky is changing his direction for a moment. Now watch this. Queen B7. Now remember, this is bullet chess. Queen B7. The rook is going to come into the center, and you say, well, it's locked. Yet for now, however, observe, he does have the option of opening it up. He does have the option of opening it up. So that's not a bad spot for the rook in one of the central files, right? And Nakamura goes, plink. One more step with the queen. So he's come from here to here and from here to here, right? And now Naroditsky comes back to queen 2 because Nakamura said, yeah, let's change the queens. I'll exchange the queens with you. And Daniel says, no, I'm going to hang on to my queen. So he did not make the exchange. And once again, just because you're offered to exchange a rook or a knight or whatever doesn't mean you have to do so. And it's not a bad time. It's not a bad thing if you don't do so. And now look at Nakamura again. Plink. So the queen, now what he's doing is he's bringing the queen around the long way, for sure, without question. Because the knight is very well placed here. He's keeping an eye on the center, right? So there's no point to move him to get the queen out here faster. He just goes one step at a time. She is much more powerful here than she was back here. So now the queen is better centralized. In fact, the queen is actually better placed than Naroditsky's here. Naroditsky says, okay, now, and this, of course, is the announcement. And you can see the file is occupied by Nakamura's rook. The queen has now come over to the queen's side, backing up the pawn. The pawn is also backed up again by the knight and the knight. When it comes to here, it's going to have support of the knight to hit the center pawn. And it's true. This pawn is also supported by the knight, the queen, the bishop, the knight. I mean, this is a major fight for the center, and they're both preparing step by step. They don't just immediately start attacking. It's much better to build up the center and be ready for when the barn crashes down. Naroditsky goes G4. So Nakamura's coming on this side. Naroditsky begins his push on the king side. So here we go. The race is on, and they both know it. The race is on. Here comes that C5. Here comes the breakthrough. So let's see what happens. How is he going to handle this thrust by Nakamura? By ignoring it. That's exactly how he's going to do it. And in fact, he's going to push F5 and produce his own thrust on the king side. Very important to grasp. Just because you're being attacked by the world's greatest bullet chess player in the top 3 doesn't mean you have to react even to him. You carry on with your attack on your side. Now this is tough chess. This is one of the things I really wanted to point out because it's so tough. Nakamura's response here is exquisite. Rook A2, absolutely. You got the file, use it. Now, the pawn push with the support of the pieces is what we're seeing Nakamura beautifully do, including the rook on the open file. That piece is supporting this forward thrust. We'll see it in just a moment. It's very interesting how he does this. Naroditsky, not to be intimidated or outdone, says, oh, yeah? Well, check this out. I've got a play of my own. Again, notice, because Naroditsky dropped his queen to d2, he did have a battery with his white squared bishop, and they got rid of the bishops. Now he's got the battery, the queen and the bishop, on the dark squared bishop, and Naroditsky sees a very excellent idea. The dark squares around the king, because he pressed the G pawn, the dark squares are weak around the castled king. It is that bishop that gives those squares their strength. One of the great ways to weaken the castled king is exchange that bishop. Then you've got a dark square weak complex you can brutally attack. Yes, you'll notice the white square weaknesses around Naroditsky's king. Every one of them are weak. And look who's coming down the white square lane, pointing in that direction, the queen. So Naroditsky is going to try the same thing. I see weaknesses, but I got to get rid of that defender. What do you think Nakamura is going to do here with this? This is one of the critical points of the game right here. This can help decide the game. Nakamura would be silly to take that bishop. To take is a mistake, because if he takes that bishop, then he's got the queen to deal with. You don't need to help your opponent's queen get such an absolutely powerful position. That would just rock Nakamura's world. So what does he do? A genius move. He loses the exchange in favor of the position. This is one of the major points I wanted to show you this game for. This is one of the best illustrations of when, why, and how to go down the exchange in order to keep your position strong. Nakamura takes the pawn. He's utilizing this magnificent file, which in essence, taking the pawn, and of course, Naroditsky has to retake. But in taking the pawn, he's undermining Naroditsky's queen pawn structures. They've maintained the tension here. He doesn't have to take the pawn. He can come down into here. And then if Naroditsky takes, he's got a fabulous passed pawn. That's how that works. So this is getting exquisitely tense, and Nakamura found a way to maintain his position, because when Naroditsky had to return the taking of the rook, then Nakamura takes the bishop, and he keeps his guardian of the dark squares. That's brilliant chess. That's just, dang, I loved seeing that. When I saw that, I laughed out loud. I said, I found the game I want to show my audience. Absolutely. Now, watch what Naroditsky does. Not to be outdone, because this can be a psychological factor against Naroditsky. It's not out of weakness that Nakamura went down that exchange. It is a psychological point saying, I'm so confident in the power of my position and my pieces that I even get to go down the exchange. I weaken your queen side. Yes, I went down the exchange, but maintained the tough guy up here. And he did. Naroditsky says, fine, let's keep right on trucking, cowboy. Blam. Watch what Naroditsky does. He comes at him tooth and claw. So, of course, there's only one square. Naroditsky doesn't quit. He goes, take that. And he buries the bishop. Nakamura's a piece down. In essence, he's a piece down. He's only got 1, 2, 3, 4 active pieces. Naroditsky has 1, 2, 3, 4 active pieces. He's got 5 pieces, but only 4 are active. So it's even. That piece is dead. That piece is locked in, because even though he had it as a supporter of the dark squares, Naroditsky's trouncing of that bishop, forcing him into the corner, still demonstrates you may have the bishop, but your squares are still weak. That's incredible chess. That's amazing. Naroditsky isn't done yet. He says, now I will release the tension here as well. I'm not going. Okay, you maintained. You kept the tough guy, the bishop. I'm going to make him useless. And I'm also going to eliminate your pawn thrust on the queen side. I'm going to blow out your queen side thrust, and I'm coming after you. That's why it is now a good time to take, which he does. And his other knight takes. Now, Nakamura's knights here are incredible. With that queen on the queen side, and he is not pawnless. He is not pawnless. That's a passed pawn. There's nothing to oppose that pawn. This isn't yet, but he's got to maintain that pawn, or he's going to have 2 deadly passed pawns on the queen side, and he's got plenty of firepower to make sure he gets them. So this is a great move by Naroditsky, and it's a great move by Nakamura. Very strong place. So, okay, so now we can see, and even with the dead bishop, and I'm going to call it a dead bishop, even with the dead bishop. Now, notice Nakamura has not left his king unattended. He has the trusty rook guarding the king as well, because this is a kingside attack. You know, you better hope you can maintain this stone wall around your king, man. Otherwise, you're in trouble. But notice his powers are grouped up that maintain the center and the queen side, and he's more active. Nakamura at this point has more power, more oomph, because of the placement, because of his position. You don't need to let it remain that way is the idea. So here we go. Naroditsky fabulous centralization of the knight. What a perfect spot for the knight. Now he is hitting the queen, and he is hitting this pawn, and it's covered. I get it, but sacrifices in the future may very well be occurring to break open that king, even though the pawns are locked, because Naroditsky does have the minor pieces to sacrifice to break open that king. So Nakamura has to tread softly. That's why it's much better to get the knights up in there. Great chess is what I'm trying to tell you. Watch Nakamura. Queen a5. Okay, she sticks around. Now she's on the A file, right? Naroditsky says, wait a minute. I've got the rook. I want that file. Notice how the queen is trapped. Whoa! He's got the queen. Except Nakamura has one ace in the hole, but he loses the piece. He has no choice. You gotta block, otherwise he loses the queen. So, excellent play by Naroditsky, who knows and shows rooks belong on open files. And this is why. So this is fantastic. And now, Nakamura, not to be outdone, now he just lost a knight. Thankfully, not the queen. Nakamura finds the absolute strongest station for his knight, and that's permanent. That's an outpost. The pawns are past the ability to chase that knight out. The only way you're getting rid of that knight is through a battle and an exchange. So Nakamura continues to improve his position as well. This is fantastic chess. Knight to c6. Notice just from a couple moves ago, both the knights were down here. Now look at the power of just a couple of bumps of that knight now hitting the queen and the pawn. What a fantastic move. Queen b6. Check. Whoops. What a fantastic fork. Queen covers, so it's all good. Rook covers, and now it's white also has a passed pawn. Black has a passed pawn. This is getting seriously tense. Naroditsky doesn't want to focus on the queen side so much as on the king side, though. His play is supposed to be over there. If he keeps playing over here, he ends up losing the initiative. Nakamura's calling the shots over here. This is how this works. A passive blunder would have been to move the king. Now, of course, you want to move it toward the center. This, no. But likewise, this, no. That is far too passive, meaning it doesn't contribute to the center as much as a better move. There is a better move, and Naroditsky finds it. Block the check while centralizing that knight. Now look at his knights. In just 3 to 4 moves, what Naroditsky has done is he has made his 2 minor pieces stronger than Nakamura's 1 minor piece, because his other minor piece is dead. It's gone. It's on the board, but it's useless. It is buried under granite. It can't budge. The king can't even move out of its way. The rook is cramming him in. Nakamura's in trouble here because Naroditsky has enhanced his centralized power and position. This is a remarkable situation. Nakamura recognizes it and he says, okay, hold on. Hold on. It's time to, now it's Nakamura who is trying to get some room here so that he can unbury that bishop. In the process, he's going to weaken his own king side. But he almost has no choice. And then what does Naroditsky do? He comes back over here and he starts playing on the queen side. Now, wait a minute. Just a second ago, I said Naroditsky doesn't want to play on the queen side. He wants to do the king side attack, right? Nakamura is on this side. So what happens? Nakamura starts playing on that side, and Naroditsky responds by coming back over here. But this is a passed pawn, and you've got a target, and it's double protected. Push! Because Nakamura has to react. He has to respond, right? So he's not going to have time to push his. He also doesn't have enough resources to protect that pawn. Observe something fascinating. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces around that pawn. That's fascinating. Now, I don't think that was intentional on Naroditsky's part. It's just in observing, he has a much better chance of getting his passed pawn in than Nakamura does, right? And yet it was the queen side that Nakamura was supposed to be in charge of. Naroditsky is really playing a screaming game here. So queen comes to c7. Now observe, he's still on the queen side. He's keeping in touch with this. He's keeping in touch with this. Here, he's not as effective with his queen as here because now he can be in touch with this also. So he's got all sides. And yes, it's all protected except this one. Well, no, it's all protected, but he's keeping his eye on it. He's keeping the queen centralized. Yes, you went back, but it's not a weakening move. And now what does Naroditsky do but blow your minds? What move would you do with the white pieces? This game is so spectacular. Dang, I love watching these guys. Knight e7, check. I mean, kablam. Kablam. Spell it out. K-A-B-L-A-M exclamation point. That is a screaming move. There's only one thing Nakamura can do to stop the destruction. You gotta take it. The effect of burying the bishop without the king being able to move out and with the rook being in the way is now acutely felt by Nakamura. He's got to stop it. And the response has to have scared him spitless. Look at this passed pawn. And in fact, now, yeah, the rook does move. Of course, you have to block the passed pawn. Isn't it amazing how Naroditsky has turned the tables and he's the one with the two passed pawns that are deadly dangerous? They were blockading. The f6 blockade is just genius on his part. And now it's the passed pawn, which again makes the rook into a passive defender. The bishop is dead. The queen is gone. You have this magnificent knight on one of the greatest posts in the game who can't do a thing. Naroditsky is just playing the game of his life, right? Queen C7. The pure power of the forward momentum of getting into the opponent's territory is now entirely crushing. Phenomenal. Now, Nakamura's not without resources. Watch him function. I'm bragging about Naroditsky because he's doing so well. Now I'm going to brag about Nakamura because he does so well. Take the pawn. Remember, if he can survive in an endgame, you've only got one pawn. He's got 5. Nakamura in an endgame plus the passer. 6. In an endgame, Nakamura's going to slaughter Naroditsky if he can survive this middle game. Observe that. This is quite the fascinating approach, except, yeah, that queen. Man, that queen. Okay. Now the bishop comes out of hibernation. Kablam. Now the bishop comes to life. We have seen the resurrection of the glory of the bishop. And what a way to come out swinging. Wipes out Naroditsky's kingside attack using the pawns as battering rams. They blockaded him, yes, but now he's just plink, plink, plink. Nakamura is just plinking them off. There's nothing there. And he is enhancing his power now, both his knight and bishop, and the rook is still passive, but now the bishop and the knight are active. So this is getting very close, except, yeah, you saw it. Queen takes e8. Dadgummit. King g7. And now Queen f8. The power of the pass pawn. Right? He's so powerful. And now the rook. Queen f8 and king h7. And now the rook, he's going the backward pawn. Notice, again, this is so important to recognize the hole here. And again, it's the weak dark squares. The weak dark squares around the king. The backward pawn. So he doesn't have a checkmate. Now, granted, he pushed the king out, but he doesn't have a checkmate. So Naroditsky simplifies by, let's do some exchanging. And it's okay. Yes, it's true. He goes down the exchange here. It's all good. It doesn't matter. So the rook takes, the knight will take, the queen will take, check, the king will go, h7. No. The bishop comes in. The bishop comes through. He still does not have a checkmate. But now it is so simplified that he can get the checkmate because there's his second queen. And it's here that Nakamura had to resign. The inevitable had occurred. But what a spectacular battle, not only for the center. And the reason the battle worked for the center for both players is because they didn't immediately just change off pieces instantly the second that opportunity arose. They left the tension until they could bring in more pieces from both sides. That is a very important feature of this game. The other feature was the speed and the way Naroditsky prevented him from having the queenside strength, and yet his kingside attack worked in blockading the pawns back in order for him to acquire the power in the center. It is in the middle game, in the central power that Naroditsky had, that allowed him to have the breakthrough to get the pass pawn and get the queen in here. So what a fantastically fun and interesting game. So there's one from 2020, Modern Guys. Both of them are still alive. They're playing fantastic chess. Check out their YouTube websites. I'll share a lot more of their games with you as I can. In the meantime, remember, be good, do well, have fun, make lots of friends, stay happy. It's fun to be happy, isn't it? I mean, we get to study chess. You can't get happier than that. So, and I will see you all soon in the next Backyard Professor Chess video coming very shortly. Yeah.